Hello, everyone. My name is Soraya Keating, and I'm an MFT. And more important to that, at least in terms of my identity, is I'm also a registered drama therapist and a registered expressive arts therapist. And I currently work at a few different locations, but for the purpose of this interview, I work about half-time for Marin Shakespeare Company as their Shakespeare for Social Justice director. I also have a private practice, and I do work in hospitals, schools, and other settings as well.
So one tradition we have at Marin Shakespeare is every year we use themes from the Shakespeare plays that we do to create original theater in a process called parallel play, original theater based on our own life experiences.
Just one person at a time to create more bridges of love and kindness and compassion. Success story, for sure. It's, just seeing the joy and celebration and the love for each other that the participants have. Not all the time, just to be realistic, but overall, that to me is a success. When I have this sense of we've created a community here, and it's not perfect, but we have created this loving tribe. I see this work influencing policy both for in prison and for people getting out of prison in a couple different ways. One way I feel like we are able to influence policy is by changing minds or just inviting people to look at those who are incarcerated in a different light than
this program has allowed me to explore and address all these traumatic issues. The very traumatic issues that led me here. The very traumatic issues that made me realize if I could transform myself, maybe, just maybe, I can help transform the world and earn a shot at redemption.
To me, theater much more accurately tells the story and gives the staff at the prison, audience who comes to see our shows, people who see our shows online. We're so lucky to have so many videos of our shows in different prisons. I have had so many people write emails to me after seeing a show about how it changed their perception of people who are incarcerated. I mean, that is just like the one email I have repeatedly received, slightly different content. Little by little, we open our hearts, change our minds, change policies.
I thought about this thing about describing myself. I begin first by saying I'm 72. I feel like that's a huge description all of its own, because actually I never thought I would get there. I am, to go and use a more English expression, I am first a theater worker. Someone who's worked in the theater from when he was very, very young. I am also some of those other things. I am a visiting associate professor, Duwadiri, at Hollins University. It's an MFA playwrights program. I'm sort of in charge of the drama therapy component and also the applied theater component, and also a performance component that supports doing that type of work. I'm the director of Geese Theater Company USA, which was a theater company that worked in prisons for forever and ever and ever, 80 years, and also was the sort of co-creator, co-worker, creating all the early plays for Geese Theater Company UK. And also, while I burble on about things like that, it was also a company called Transkena in Romania in which I sort of advise and consult, and they were linked to my company, and we are doing experiential based work with sex offenders, with violent offenders, with domestic abusers, and so on, whatever. And I'm also working with Roma over there as well. And then, so education. Yes, I had some. I remember one time I was working with a guy, he was a very dangerous man. And finally it hit me. Nobody had ever apologized to him. And I said to him, I said, man, this is in front of everybody. I said, look, I want to apologize to you. He said, why? I said, because nobody ever said sorry for the things that they did to you. And I want to say that to you. I'm sorry. And he just turned to me right at that moment. He said, it's all right, man. It's like, there in that moment, it couldn't be more primary. Drama therapy is very primal in a certain way. I mean, it's brilliant. There are some brilliant practitioners in the field. I am not one of them. I'm a bit more basic in a certain way. Well, I think so. At prisons, you walk into a prison and there is an electricity. There is something there. The men are hungry, but they hate things, and they have their own world. And the prison officers are part of it as well. Everybody forgets the prison officers. They go in there just to go and work with the prisoners. This is a whole institution with complex interactions that are going on. You could be doing the best work known to man or beast, and you walk out the door, and somebody could go and destroy it simply by saying what a bunch of garbage that is. Just like that. We need to always focus on the entire institution. The old truism, we all know where our library is, but we have no idea where our prisons are. Yeah. I'm thinking about the wonderful work that Tofteland does doing Shakespeare Behind Bars. I mean, it's lovely stuff, and his docu is just beautiful. But, where does it go to? I mean, and I think that he is involved in, at state levels, trying to make things, and trying to go and create change. It's action. Many of these guys have lost or have never created that contemplative, front-brain techniques for being able to engage with things that word therapy really demands. So, drama therapy, art therapy, music therapy, action therapies that are smart are, I think, the logical thing to go and use with people who are, who are very, very active and who are afraid legitimately afraid of therapists and clinical psychologists. A clinical psychologist is the enemy. After all, what he tells me in group, it's a different experience. This guy tells me something dangerous. I have no choice but to go and tell the institution. Got to go do it. Can't keep secrets like that. And there are some people who don't get that, that, when you hear something dangerous, you've got to do something about it. Drama therapists amongst, action therapists and experiential therapists are the ones I think that can most accurately, most sensitively, and most successfully engaged with battered people.
I'm in the 4-H Youth Development Department, and my position is statewide expressive arts. So I coordinate arts programs for youth, K to 12. I do a lot of trainings, a lot of curriculum development, grants, program development, and the drama therapy work I do is within this job title. So I'm able to do drama therapy work as part of my job here. My work in corrections is that, maybe this is another question, but began back in the 70s. And I've been in different facilities, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. So my perspective comes from all that work over those years. So. I would just want to say a couple examples. And again, this was a group that I was working with for an extended period of time, which the women in a jail in New Jersey. I was actually there with a group called Offender Aid and Restoration. This was back in the 80s. And drama therapy was the primary approach that I was taking there. I actually asked the women in my group, you know, if you were going to do a video, what would you want the video to be of? And you're going to educate other people. Like, what do you want to say? So they came up with a video, which was taped in the prison itself, in the jail itself. And it was a story about how in a family, one sister recovers from drugs and goes into rehab, and the other does not, and how this tears up the family. And it was extremely powerful. It was taped in the jail. Anyone seeing that would not know that they were incarcerated except for the jail uniforms they were wearing. This tape then became an educational tool. They looked at themselves with such pride seeing what they had created, and they actually knew that others were going to learn from this. At one point when we were working on it, they were improvising, and the language was, you know, what it was heavy stuff. And one of the guards came over and said she didn't realize it was improvisation, and she said, "You have to stop talking like that." And the women said, "We are putting together a film. If you'd like to stick around and listen to us." But they tried to explain, you know, come in, don't just judge us, because the guard just heard all this and wasn't realizing what they were doing, was coming up with she said, "Well, you're just promoting drugs." And they said, "No, we're not. If you stick around, you'll see the end of the video is about it is possible to change." So I was so proud that they had spoken up for themselves. I mean, they were extremely articulate, and then the guard kind of realized, I need to not prejudge this. And another group, again, poetry, movement. I work not so much I don't work with a given script, you know, so what's coming is like the singing, the improv, the poetry. There was a group of women from the jail who put together a showcase, which we were able to invite the community to, which was amazing, because come in and see it, because part of it is breaking down those negative images, right? So we had people from the local community coming, and they were in the audience. And at one point, what the women scheduled to do was to wear the gospel robes, choir robes, and they came in to the basement of the jail, singing Amazing Grace with the gospel robes on. I'm rarely speechless, but when I have a moment like that in my work, where, and I still get emotional talking about it, it just validates everything. And when they asked me to come up, when the women asked me to come up and they want to thank me, I could not speak. And I said to them, I can't say anything but thank you, because I was just so moved by what they did.
Well, I'm Armand Volkas. I'm a psychotherapist, drama therapist, and theater director based in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm an associate professor, or adjunct associate professor in the drama therapy program at CIIS. I am clinical director of the Living Arts Counseling Center in Emeryville. I also direct the Living Arts Playback Theater Ensemble, which I've been doing for the last 30 years. And also I'm the director, creator of the drama therapy approach that I call Healing the Wounds of History, working with intercultural conflict transformation and healing collective and historical trauma. I was invited by a public defender to work with a man who had murdered a man, a woman, and an 18-month-old child with a knife. And it was a death penalty case. This was in 1986, 87. The public defender was worried because it was such a heinous crime that they wanted to find ways to humanize him. They were going to put him on the stand. And basically, the public defender hired me as a drama therapist. He was very shy, if you can imagine, but he was into Dungeons and Dragons. He was into role-playing. And so basically, I worked with him. The first goal was to help him testify, kind of almost like an acting coach. But meanwhile, I worked with him for close to a year, where I would come 2 or 3 times a week and work with him, doing individual drama therapy. And basically, because he was also into science fiction as well, we started to enact and co-create a science fiction novel. Doing this work, I mean, some ethical issues, you know, as a drama therapist, working with incarcerated people before their trial. A lot of time, mostly we meet people after their trial, but to be a participant before somebody is convicted, you know, the ethical issues started to come in, you know. At what point am I helping someone who is guilty, you know, get off with a light sentence, or to be seen as not guilty? Can I help someone lie? Could I work for the mafia, aiding them? And I think it was so complex. Even though I saw that a lot of people were very, in a mercenary way, were using action methods to help trial lawyers, I just stopped doing that.
I started to study dance and theater long before I thought about prison work or prison reform. It was just a way to save my life. Theater saved my life. And that's how I enter into this place. It's that coming into San Francisco's city jail at Bryant Street was where I first started working. And going in and realizing how angry and sad the women were. And I thought, what can I do? They weren't interested in exercise. And God bless the California Arts Council, who said, well, you know, we'll get dancers like Rhodessa Jones to go in and teach movement, because aerobics had just happened. So it was like, okay, we will get her to go in and teach aerobics, but I'm not an aerobics teacher. And I was replacing the belly dancer. It was wild. It was just wild. And I started to talk about my life. I talked about being a mother before I was a woman, having a baby at 16. My brothers, as I just mentioned, having brothers. I had a brother at Attica. And the women still were like, And I talked about my own dance with dangerous men, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, looking for love in all the wrong places. And they got it, but they were a little wary. And one woman, Regina Brown, said to me, why are you telling us your business? And I said, because I'm an artist, and I'm interested in how can we build a road out of here so you can go back to your families, your children. And she said, well, then you're not the police. And I said, no, I'm an artist. And she said, an artist? What's that? With no malice. And I've been attempting to answer that question ever since. Yeah, so here I am. The process for creating therapeutic theater is, I don't name it that, but I'm much more interested in telling the truth and practicing revolution. And they arrive at the same place. and we cry. Then the kind of theater I make is autobiographical because race and culture are very interesting bedfellows in America. And I always wanted to be a part of the ongoing conversation. And living in San Francisco, I had the great opportunity to see and meet Robin Williams, Jeff Hoyle, Lily Tomlin, seeing these people work, Whoopi Goldberg. These were my community, and I wanted to be a part of that because I feel like my story is an amazing story. I'm a migrant worker's child, and as I said earlier, I was a mother before I was a woman. And as Audre Lorde would say, we were never meant to survive. So we may as well speak the truth, knowing that we were never meant to survive. And that's where I went into the jails with that whole idea that your story is a part of the American canon, the American character. And having women realize, you know what? I am a part of this. And I say, get mad. Get mad. It's okay. I said, we can handle it in this group. I'd like to see you get mad at being betrayed, at being sold into prostitution, at being sold into the dope business. I have had over the period of the last 20 years, I've met so many women that their parents were drug addicts. And so you take this 5-year-old girl and you leave her with the drug man because that's how you pay for your dope. It's like, and women having to come to grips with having your vaginal body reconstructed because you were left as the prize or the money for the drugs that your mother and father took from the guy. They left you there with him, And yeah, that would make me crazy. That would make me mad. But let's say it out loud. I'm mad. And the whole idea that recovery is the rock, recovery is the mountain. And Sisyphus was the most cunning knave on earth who tried to cheat the gods of death, not once, but twice.
So I am zeina daccache. I'm from Lebanon, Middle East, and I'm a drama therapist. I have an MA in clinical psychology here from Beirut, and I was an alternative training student with the NADTA. So I'm a registered drama therapist with the NADTA, and I am also a BCT board certified trainer. I have founded in Lebanon, after I came back from the States, I founded the NPO, nonprofit organization called Catharsis, Lebanese Center for Drama Therapy. And our NPO's mission is to spread drama therapy in the country and in the region. So what the main big programs we've been known for is prisons, because it's been 12 years we have established a drama therapy program inside Lebanese prisons. But also we work with refugees, Palestinian refugees, Syrian refugees. We work with migrant domestic workers. We work with, anyone who would like to benefit from the drama therapy populations, whether special populations or the private clinic. We do even work with corporate settings. So for team building purposes, for conflict resolution in the corporates, that's what we've been doing. And I started alone mainly, then I established the alternative training program in Lebanon. So I've been training people to become drama therapists. The first program of my MPO be inside prisons. Was it easy? It wasn't easy at all, because you are in a third world country with a lot of issues. There was the July war, then we had something with the Muslim extremist in Lebanon with the Lebanese army, and no one wanted to think about prisons back then, no one in the authorities. So when I knocked the door, they were like, you're crazy. You going inside prisons? Are you okay with the extremists inside with blah, blah, blah? So they refused it for a whole year and a half, and I kept knocking doors. And we never had a parole system before 12 Angry Lebanese, which is the first play I directed with the inmates. So there was a law in 2002, like the parole, reduction of sentences for inmates for good behavior. But it was, just sitting in the drawer. No one wanted to think about it. So the first project that happened inside Rumiyeh prison, which is the biggest prison in Lebanon that we've implemented, the inmates inside the play, they claimed very artistically for the implementation of this law. And everyone was there, the ministers, decision makers, the MPs, members of parliament. And they were like, we have such a law. So, wow, let's do it. And they did it, they started implementing it. And from there on, we stayed there, changing other laws, doing other things, and voila.
صارني بالحبس 85 سنة، سنة ورا سنة.
قد ايه عمرك علي؟
عمري شي من فوق 130 140.
هي تاني؟
ايه
قالولي بس تطلع بدك تستأجر بيت وحدك، معك مصاري لتستأجر البيت؟
ايه والله معي 4000 ليرة حاططهم بالبيت.
4000 ليرة قديش بيأمنوا لك أجار؟
أربعة آلاف ليرة بأمنوا لي أجار، بأمنوا شي 3 سنين، بأمنوا أجار 3 سنين.
You start as a drama therapist, you end up being a lawyer, a social assistant. You know, we bring medicines to them because no one brings medicines to the inmates here. There's no system of follow-up once they are outside. So if we can, we do help in finding them jobs and, you know, fixing the relation with the families once they are out. I am still not sure if this is a strength or a weakness, because we entered in something, but it became huger, much, much, much bigger than what we thought. The strengths of this program, as I told you, it's changing laws in Lebanon. So the first one was the parole. We got it implemented. The second one, through the Project Shahrazad with the women inmates, there was a draft law being presented by another civil society for the protection of women from domestic violence. And the play we've done was mainly, the actresses were inmates, ladies, women, who killed the husband for domestic violence's causes. So also the decision makers came, the ministers, the MPs watched this play inside the prison. You know, we lock the door after the prison, the show is over, and they have to stay there for a Q&A with the inmates. So when they heard the stories of these women who says, I mean, if you don't protect us with the law, you're gonna have more criminals out there, you know? And 2 months later, the draft law passed, and now we have a law for the protection from domestic violence. So this is the way we've done. These are the strengths, is like, because also here, you tell me, Zeina, when you started drama therapy, you thought about becoming an activist? I say, hell no, I never want to be an activist. I just want to do the drama therapy program. But things just, you know, everything is linked, because you cannot share these stories that need a change of law without changing the law afterwards.
أول شيء أحس حالي حيوانة، إني عم بنضرب وعم بنهان وأنا وولادي وساكتة.
مستقبلي بعقد.
يا بحر موجك شو بعيد، خدني لحبيبي، خدني لعندك.
It's very difficult, but I mean, we do as much as we can. That's what we're doing. Thank you.
I've been RDT, VCT, past president of the association. I was president from 1995 to 97. I found myself across the desk from the Commissioner of Corrections for the state of Connecticut. Little knowing that this was one of the great prison reform men of his time. His name was Ellis McDougall. He ended up reforming 5 states in corrections. And I just happened to be there at the right time and took the risk of saying, I want to go and do something. He said, what do you want to do? And I said, go in. I want to go in. And he said, okay, because he too was a risk taker. Got him into some trouble, controversy. But anyway, 3 weeks later, together with my husband, who did go in with me, and a stash of video equipment that we had, we walked into the minimum security prison, which was called the Farm, and we found 50 inmates there waiting for us. And that began a real, I want to call it a love affair because it was a family. It was a new family for all of us. We found ourselves so welcomed, so needed. It's only in retrospect, and as you go back and look over time, it was indeed a groundbreaking program nationally. There were people working, a few people working in prisons, but the kind of program you're going to hear me say we developed was truly different. If you have the opportunity to take your skills as a drama therapist into working with children in the neighborhoods, those who have been exposed to trauma, and my goodness, you could almost go anywhere in this country today between hurricanes and fires and floods and whatever, and mass shootings. They're traumatized already. We're traumatized by watching the news. And I also found out when I went back after Katrina, I not only had to do drama therapy with the students, I was doing it with the faculty. I was doing drama therapy with entire staff because they so needed the process that we can provide them. Change the climate of the prison. Just as you have found out that when you're there and you can communicate and offer something that is positive, that all people and staff can relate to, there is a trust. The relationships change. They reform. We actually are reforming. This is prison reform at its best. You do it from the inside out, not from the outside in. And this is what we do. If we can get in, because you'll probably hear some of the testimonies of the inmates in my group, but they lose their identity. And what we do is we allow them to rediscover who they are. I'll never forget, and I can't remember who said it, but I've always remembered the line. If I cannot share with you my feelings, I cannot tell you who I am. And I think that that is what we're all about, sharing ourselves and our feelings. And that is what we release. That's what we bring. And so if you have that in the prisons, you will find that there will be a positive change that will happen in time. It will happen.